Okay, I'm back for part two of the video on research problems and expert opinions, as I titled it. Okay, and I was talking about how to read a paper, the basics of evidence-based medicine, and I just want to add a couple more points from that book. The author mentioned if the findings of a study appeared to contradict those of other researchers, what attempt was made to validate and replicate them? Okay. So the author does say, and I'm kind of being a little hard on research. The author does say that she likes the Cochrane reviews, Cochrane, the Cochrane reviews. And she states that, and I'll read this, Cochrane reviews can be a daunting read, but here's a tip. The bulk of a Cochrane review consists of methodological discussion. The gist of it can be gleaned by jumping to the plain language summary, always to be found directly following the abstract. So if you're really going to do a little due diligence, you might want to go to the Cochrane reviews and jump to that section. Now, having said that, I did a little bit more research and I found this information from 2002, March 2nd. Olson et al. Assessed a sample of Cochrane reviews from 1998 and highlighted some major areas where improvement is possible. They found that 29% of reviews had major problems, including inappropriate methods and conclusions. As they say, improvement is still possible, but this figure nevertheless represents a major improvement on the quality of non-Cochrane reviews. So, okay, that was published 2002. That's 20 years ago. I don't know what the numbers are now. So there was a concern with 29%, say 30%. So okay, at least maybe 70% were of the research was good or decent. Okay. And just for a little side note, peer-reviewed research is not perfect. Okay, if there's any of you that are saying, what about peer-reviewed research? Not perfect. I'm not going to address that, but there are plenty of sites that you can go online to find out the particulars about that. Finally, okay, published April 2011, if I've got this right, the MMR vaccine and autism, sensation, refutation, and retraction and fraud. This one is the one that really kind of bugs me. Let me read part of this. In 1998, Andrew Wakefield and 12 of his colleagues published a case series in The Lancet, which suggested that the measles, mumps, and rubella MMR vaccine may predispose to behavioral regression and pervasive developmental disorder in children. Now, first of all, the sample size was 12. Okay, very small, uncontrolled design. Okay, so there's some real big red flags right off the back. Speculative nature of the conclusions, the article says, but it was still received wide publicity, and the MMR vaccination rates began to drop because parents were concerned about the risk of autism after the vaccination. Well, the Lancet completely retracted the Wakefield et al. Paper in February 2010, admitting that several elements in the paper were incorrect, contrary to the findings of the earlier investigation. Okay. And also Wakefield et al. Were held guilty of ethical violations and scientific misrepresentation. So it was really a mess. Now the retraction that was done apparently was published as a small anonymous paragraph in the journal on behalf of the editor. So that's kind of interesting how they did that. The final episode of the saga, based on this article that I'm presenting, it says the final episode in the saga is the revelation that Wakefield et al. Were guilty of deliberate fraud. So they picked and chose data that suited their case, and they falsified facts. The British Medical Journal has published a series of articles on the exposure of the fraud, which appears to have taken place for financial gain. And so there you have it. Wow. Okay. So just to kind of summarize, all right. I don't want to sound like I'm coming off too hard on research, because I think research is very, very important. But what I am saying is maybe you do a little bit of due diligence and double check and see if the research that is being touted at least has some face value to it. You can go on to the Cochrane reviews and do a quick little review there. Again, research is important, but I think what's also important is being able to understand if the research is done fairly well. And you don't have to be a research expert to do that. Do a quick little review of some of the books I've mentioned, just to kind of get an idea of what it takes to understand whether the research looks reliable and valid or not. I think you can then be able to speak a little bit more intelligently about the research that's out there. Okay, this was a tough one because there's just so much information out there in terms of research. There's a lot of good research out there. I always want to refer to research before I make any sort of statement. On the other hand, there's some research that does fall short, so you do want to do your due diligence. Okay, I'm going to end this one because this one has been a long one.